All right, we are now recording, and here we go. One, two, and three. And here we are. Welcome to episode number 41 of SchreckTeck. I'm Rick Zanotti, and next to me, guess who?
Is the stunned and speechless Gina Schreck. That was the first time I saw the intro.
That's right. We leave everything as a surprise for Gina.
Just so I can see the wonder. You can see the wonder in my face. That was cool.
It was fun. It was a Sony Vegas thingy.
Sony Vegas.
Yep, that's what I do with that's our editing software for video.
Okay.
It was
nice. Fun. Nicely done. Yeah. See, everyone here we're all stunned by the new intro.
Stunned. Shocked beyond belief.
Shocked beyond belief. So it is 2012. We can't say 2012. Is that correct?
Well, we could say 2012, but it's 2012.
Yeah. I think, it's easier. It flows off the tongue. 2012.
If you're a programmer, you can say 2012.
2012 if you want to be more Borg-like.
That's right.
2012. Yeah. So we could do that, and but no. Yeah, Rick's excited because he has the sound effects.
My sound effects
and
are
I have
back.
the horn. We're ready
Gina's
for
got
more.
the low-tech horn, and I've got the high-tech soundboard. So we're doing well.
Did you do anything exciting for New Year's Eve?
We actually celebrated New Year's at 9 p.m. Pacific time, watching live at 12 p.m. as it was happening in New York.
In New York.
How's that for excitement? I was actually sick during New Year's Eve, so I didn't want to do anything. I had a little bit of an allergy cold thing going on.
Yeah. Well, and we've done that in the past where you set all the clocks ahead in the house so everyone thinks that it's almost midnight, and then you just go to bed early in the morning, you fix the clocks. But this year we went to San Francisco and had a fabulous time in San Francisco. Did some really fun, I grew up in the Bay Area, but we did some fun touristy things like rode a cable car. I've ridden one when I was young, but not as an adult. So we rode cable cars to dinner and went across the Golden Gate Bridge and then went to the Muir Woods. It was really fun.
That sounds good.
Yeah, and we had a great hotel that overlooked the bay, and fireworks were in the bay over on New Year's Eve. So that was really fun. But it was a challenge staying up till midnight, I have to admit. So I think we're just getting old.
Well, in your case, It was 1 o'clock.
That's what I kept saying. I kept saying, the reason I'm tired is it's really already midnight at home.
I was actually up till midnight. I was actually up till about 1, but wife doesn't last usually past about 11, so we did the 9 o'clock.
See, and my husband reminded me, he said, okay, you have no problem staying up past midnight when I'm working. I mean, I'll be up till 1, sometimes 2 in the morning getting work done, but somehow when you go out, it's kind of like if I'm not doing something, just sitting, that's hard. So hopefully everyone had a fabulous New Year's Eve and New Year's celebration. And of course, Jeff got to celebrate first, being in Australia. So, to him, this is already old year. The year's half over, Jeff.
That's true. So, now, one time I was flying back from Hong Kong. It was on we had done New Year's in Hong Kong, and on the way back on the plane, which was New Year's Day, Hong Kong time, we had New Year's all over again because we hit the international date line, and there it was. It was New Year's again. So that was the only time in my life I've had 2 New Years.
So you had 2. So did that officially change years, or is it just
it was actually a different year.
It's just new again,
It
new
was
again.
new again.
Yeah.
It was New Year's in Hong Kong, and then the next day it was New Year's back home. So
well,
that was
and being New Year's, I've been really looking at social media goals and, really trying to help our clients set some new goals for social media management within their organization and looking at some of the trends. And we've talked about some of the trends and predictions and where we see things going. Again, one of the big trends I think we're really going to see a lot, and I'm excited that one of them is an app that you picked. But I think we're going to see so much more visual storytelling in 2012 through pictures, through video. And there will always be, there's a big group of people who still avoid video. They kind of shy away from using video, or they're intimidated by it. But I think that's going to be one of the things as we move into this new year, of setting goals to be better storytellers of our business. And that made me look at how many pictures, and I heard something on New Year's Day that said Facebook anticipated over the New Year weekend 1 billion photos to be uploaded on Facebook.
Wow.
And, you know, we load a lot of photos on Facebook. I don't know if everyone does, but it's a great cloud-based storage for our photos. And some people load tons. I mean, my youngest daughter, the Schrecklet, I mean, loads just hundreds of videos, or not videos, photos. And that's when, you know, I thought we need to revisit. I think on our very first show last year in February, we talked about Backupify.
Yes.
And we talked about some of the ways that we can back up our social networking. And this week I had a couple people send me questions. How can I retrieve all my tweets from, you know, past history? And how can you back up your Facebook content that you've shared on your Facebook page? And, you know, so we've started realizing, wow, we have a lot of value that we've put into these social networks. How are we ensuring that they won't go away? And so I was revisiting Backupify, and it is a great service and free for 3 of your accounts. So you can do Facebook, Twitter. I did Facebook profile, Facebook business page, and Twitter for free. And then if you want to add other social networks, if you want to add Flickr, if you want to add some other content that you've then there's a fee. They have different fee schedules, but I think it's a really smart thing for people who are putting so much into their social sites. And you probably use a more sophisticated overall backup. But do you store your pictures somewhere, Rick?
No.
Is it still in the roll?
No, a lot of it is. I mean, we back it up, but it's just on local machines, backed up on other drives. I haven't used any of the online backups yet. Probably should. I was looking at Carbonite as one of them.
Right.
But really haven't. I don't post that many pictures, at least on Facebook. I have a couple here and there, but we haven't done a ton. So there's not much to back up. We have all of those pictures. But,
and I think this is the time of year, though, to really look at. It was interesting because I bought a new MacBook Pro because my older daughter broke her MacBook. And so she does a lot of work for me, and I need her to have a computer that works and is reliable. So, of course, she was trying to get me to go buy her a new MacBook Pro, not as a Christmas gift, but just to go buy her one. So I went and bought myself one and gave her my old one. But what was interesting, when I was transferring the data off of one to another, which, by the way, if anybody buys a new laptop, I don't know if this is true. Rick, you might know. I literally plugged an Ethernet cord from one MacBook Pro to the other, and I went into the settings and I had everything migrate over. It created an identical, every application, every file, everything mirrored onto the new one. And then we went in and removed me as an admin on the old one after adding her on. But is it that simple for PCs? A laptop?
No, not as simple. But there are software packages that let you do, and there's some special cables you can buy. Haven't tried it with just USB, though. I think there are some solutions that do that. Actually, I don't do that because usually software like Adobe and all that just doesn't copy well because of the registry.
Okay. And I know I could have even done it wirelessly, but when I set it up to do it wirelessly, it said it would take 7 hours. So,
yeah, that's pretty long.
Yeah, probably a long time. But it was that simple. But while I was doing that, what reminded me of the backup, the need for backup is even when we have a system in place, I have what's called the time capsule. For Apple, it's the time capsule time machine. It acts as a router if you need a wireless router, and it's also a backup. It's another hard drive, and it's every hour copying any changes that have taken place in your system, and it backs it up. Well, I just had that on, assumed it's always working. I don't go in and check my backup stuff, which that's a good lesson because when I was transferring everything, I thought, let me just actually pull a copy from my time capsule instead of syncing the two together. Well, it said your time capsule has not been updated since August 2010. I was like, oops, what happened? I don't even know what happened.
Your
So
backup wasn't backed
somehow
up.
there was nothing to back up from. Yeah. So fortunately, I had no crash, or I would have really been devastated. So, I think this is the time of year we need to all look at how are we backing up our data. I feel more confident now that I've been using a lot of cloud-based storage like Dropbox, but I feel like can we become complacent in that? What do you think about relying on cloud-based backup?
I think the only risk is cloud-based anything can be gone tomorrow. That's my only fear. A lot of the big vendors won't be, but you never know.
You
Some
never
of them
know.
have disappeared. Some of the photo places have disappeared.
Right.
Some of the backup software may not be around anymore. There are risks. Contact managers may be gone. Project management tools may be gone. So, as much as I think all of us want to embrace the cloud, if you will,
We need a backup to that backup.
yeah, because you can't rely on that actually being there. I mean, we're still in a rough economy, and half of these companies don't
Yeah.
really monetize all that well.
That's a good point. And so it's interesting, even on Instagram, I've started selecting one more place to send the picture. Because on Instagram, when you take a picture and you make the cool filters, then it will send it. You can say, send this to Twitter, send it to Facebook, or just send it to Instagram. And then there's a new one, fairly new, send it to Flickr. And I started sending all my photos that I take and use through Instagram. I send them at least to Instagram and Flickr because I feel like that's just another place to back up, all these memories. I feel like, gosh, I took so many more pictures this past year
Now, do you
because of all the apps. I
now do
took a
you do
lot
you, do
more.
you wind up having your pictures spread all over the place, and then you have a hard time figuring out where they went?
I mean, really, most of mine are found on Facebook. But if I just go to Instagram, well, that's a good point. Only if I take them through my iOS device. So only if I took them through my iPad or sent them to my iPad to mess with and then put through Instagram. But if I just take them through a regular camera, they usually get uploaded to Facebook, put into albums there. So that's why I thought Backupify was so important to make sure all my photos were definitely backed up. And on Backupify, you get to select, do I want my posts to be updated? Do I want photos, videos? You kind of go through this checklist of what you want backed up. You may not need all the comments people make on your photos. That may not be that important. You may not need status updates backed up. So you get to select.
Now, does
And
this back
then
up real time, or do you back up like once a night?
um, that on Backupify, they do it every day. It backs up every day, whatever you're
Okay,
loading.
okay, but
So
not it's
yeah,
not done. It's not done on the run as you go,
I don't think it's on the
because that would
go.
be
I don't
really
think it's
slow.
live.
Yeah, okay, that's
Um,
good.
yeah, and Larry's saying Dropbox is definitely another. I do keep a lot of photos in Dropbox, but photos are so big
They are big
they
in
end up running
Dropbox.
out of
Now,
space.
did you buy the premium Dropbox where you get like 40 gigs for $100?
You know what? I don't, and
We do,
I
because you
I
only get
have
2 gigs.
invited so many people.
Really?
Every time you invite someone to join Dropbox,
Mm-hmm.
you get an extra, I don't know, like 250 megabytes of
Really?
storage.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So every one of my clients, I set up a Dropbox folder and I invite them to share that folder. Well, when they accept that folder, I get an extra 250
Interesting.
storage. So that's another way to get more free storage is to invite others, or sometimes I'll just put out on Facebook. If you don't know about Dropbox, click here to download your free Dropbox thing, and then I'll put in parentheses, affiliate or something, and I get more storage space every time somebody uses that to get their free
Now,
Dropbox.
that's interesting. We also do a lot of e-learning development, and we use Dropbox sometimes to coordinate between 3 or 4 or 5 different people so that we're
Right?
all on the same page, if you will. And the good
Yeah.
thing about Dropbox is if you're using a tool like Articulate, Articulate doesn't work well on a server. But if you put it in Dropbox as a work group environment, then it's local and it's happy. So
Oh,
it's one of those interesting things. Once you have Dropbox on your machine, now it's a local drive versus a server drive, which can cause grief with some packages.
Huh.
So that is one of the benefits of having Dropbox, and also if, for example, we have some remote graphic artists, we've got
Right.
remote instructional designers.
It's
Everybody can
invaluable.
coordinate. Yeah. Now, of course, you've got to be careful with version control because Dropbox does not keep track of your versions. So you've got to just watch that you don't overwrite each other. That's
Well, yeah, if you're changing versions, but that's the beauty of Dropbox is you don't have to save it as version 1, version 2, version 3, unless 2 people are opening the document at the same time.
which could happen. That's why you have to be
It
careful.
could happen, and we've had that happen, and then it puts in parentheses a little 1 when you close it, but then you're not sure which one was the most recent, so you do have to do some work. It's interesting because Dave brought up a good, it's interesting, I've played with this site. It's called If This Then That, or IFTTT. So if this then that, IFTTT.com. If this then that. And Dave's saying that's a great way to automatically have things happen like backup. So if this then that, if you're not familiar with, is really cool. You go in and set up sequence actions to take place. So if I load a photo to Facebook, then I want it to automatically post it to, Flickr or Dropbox, or it's a really interesting site. I've tried to use If This Then That to figure out a way to automatically have things post to Google Plus to schedule them, because if I post to Facebook, I want it to automatically, but Google Plus still has not opened the third party, the APIs yet, and so if anybody knows how to do that, let me know. But I couldn't figure that out. But that is a great idea, Dave. Is If This Then That. It's IFTTT.com. It's in the chat room. That's another great way to set up some sequences that you might have on a regular basis. And Jeff is gloating that he got extra storage on Dropbox and didn't do anything. They just saw your smile, Jeff, and said, "Give him extra storage." He needs it. But I do think this is the time of year for 2 things. Check your backup. How are you backing up your data? What are you doing? Don't just assume that it's working. Your time machine may have, maybe mine went into the past and never came back from August 2010. But mine was not backing up my data. And then the second thing that I always do on the first of the year, and I know some people do this a lot more often, but is change all your passwords. So, I think that's another real important thing that we need to always look at the first of the year. And do you have a system, Rick, for password changing? And
No.
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 Do you change yours often?
No.
No. Do you have the same one for the past, since August 2010?
If not longer.
Okay.
But I have variations of the same one, and they're pretty cryptic.
I know, and this is starting to, last year I kind of got out of my normal routine of how I made my password, and it started getting so confusing. I was always clicking the send me my password because I forgot. And I used to do the thing that they say never to do, is I would put all my passwords on a Rolodex, which I still have some. But I learned a really cool system, and the system is to find a single password that's pretty tough to begin with. But it's just a single password. So, maybe it's somebody's name spelled backwards with a exclamation point in the middle, or a 7 instead of an H or something. So let's say you have that password. That's hard enough to remember. But as long as it's the same one, here's what you do. You go to every site. So let's say it's Facebook. Facebook, you start with F, plug in your password that you create, ends with a K, Facebook. You go to LinkedIn, starts with an L, ends with an N, but then you have your same password in the middle. So that every account you set up, it keeps your passwords easier for you to remember.
Now, there is a problem with that, because if you already know 2 of the letters, it just makes it easier to figure out if you've got hacking algorithms, the rest. So you've just given people a hint.
Think so?
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, okay, so somebody's going to hack me then.
Okay, don't hack
I
Gina.
felt
Be nice,
brilliant
don't
about
hack Gina.
Yeah. I felt like that was a really smart way. And I've heard people use something like that where they take a single password and then each site they go to, they can remember the coding that goes into the password. But then some people use one.
Okay, as an ex-IT person who's still an IT person, you really don't want your passwords to be descriptive of anything that you're doing on a particular site. You want it different. In fact, the best passwords are the ones that are system generated that you can't remember. Those are the worst. Because they're completely
Help me understand that, because John Cilio, remember we had him on here, identity theft expert, and he talks about, he uses, I think it's called 1Password or something.
Yes.
Where it creates a different password for you for every one of your logins.
Right.
How does that work? How do you remember that?
Well, it's not easy, but there is. But then sometimes on your machine you may have software that keeps track of all your passwords. Which again, you have to be careful. Don't put it on a laptop.
Yeah.
If you lose your laptop,
I'm confused by how that really. Obviously, it works, because if anybody is paranoid about passwords, it's John Cilio.
Yeah, he's got
John. Sorry, I have to tell him that, but he's. I always say I don't think he trusts his children to tell them any of his passwords.
That's a smart thing.
Yeah, which that's actually smart. But 1Password. That's the one that John Cilio uses. So, and he is an identity theft expert. He has had his identity stolen from him by a partner, and then started really delving into the whole industry of identity theft. And he swears by 1Password that's the way to do it. So I guess I need to understand how that really. How do you then, when you go to log in, how do you get the password if you don't know it? See, now Larry is saying that one's okay. Consider, password 1. Is that is that because the number's at the end? Is that a safer password? So it's either 1Password or password 1. But I think this is the time of year we need to all revisit those safety things and stay secure.
Yep.
So that's my.
Now, have you been keeping up with that new legislation that they're trying to pass, which is a little onerous? I think it's called SOPA, Software Online Piracy Act.
Yeah,
which unfortunately can really lead to a slippery slope of government or anybody else shutting you down for whatever reason. Let's say company A is in with the government, company B competes, and company B gets hit with some sort of, and there's no appeal process. They can just shut you down, and then you have to go to court to try to litigate it back. That's insane.
It is. It's crazy, and trying to keep up on all what's going on in that. It is just, it's insanity. When
I agree about the software piracy. I agree with that, or any kind of online piracy. Sure, stop that, but don't penalize everybody.
Don't legislate
and don't allow the government to basically shut you down. By the way, the government, while nobody was watching, just so everybody knows, on I think it was Sunday, passed a law that the military can now arrest you anywhere in the U.S. if they want to. Isn't that nice?
Well,
and that was passed very quietly.
Again, if you're wearing white shoes after Labor Day,
that's right.
That could also happen.
But these are great laws that are being passed with nobody knowing.
And they're all in California.
Yeah,
they all start there.
Oh, they all do. They definitely
crazy law people.
Yep, that's true.
But let's look at a couple fun things as we move into this era of more pictures and visuals.
I've got a little video of Sketch. That's your app that you chose this week. So here we go. Here's our video of Sketch. Now, that's a great software package, and Evernote just bought them, which is real interesting.
Yeah, and I've used Sketch for years on my Mac. So it has been an app that you can add to it's only iOS at that time, and I've used it on my Mac, and here's how I've always used it. And it's interesting to see all the creative uses, because whenever I'm talking to our web guy or I need something changed on our website, I do a screenshot and then I write all over it with Sketch and put arrows and annotations, and I can literally, you drag it into an email and it just is, it's great. Well, then I started using it in social media when I am trying to explain something. Like you're going to see the drop down arrow on the right hand side of this. I take a Sketch is like a lot of these, Snagit and the others that you can take a sliver of your screen, take a little screenshot, but then with Sketch, you take a picture of it, and then you can write all over it and draw and arrows and text. And so I've used it on my computer, on my laptop, but then it came to not only to Evernote, because I think it rolled out to Evernote when they bought it, obviously first, but now it's an app on your iPad.
Right.
So now you can take a picture and draw and then save it and upload it. I love Sketch. Love it.
How much does Sketch cost?
It's free.
It's free. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, it's free. So, and I'm not sure, I still don't see the connection. I'm trying to figure out on Evernote if it's just so that you can do pictures and write on them.
I think that's all it is. I haven't really played too much with it on Evernote.
Yeah, I haven't used it on Evernote at all, but I use it on my iPad and on my laptop. So, it's one of those great tools that are just make it easy for you to pinpoint for someone what you're talking about. Whenever someone emails me a question, I can't seem to figure this out, or I don't see that on my Twitter account, I take a screenshot and then I write something with an arrow and I send it right back via email or Facebook message or whatever it is we're communicating with. You can add it in, you can save it as a JPEG, put it into a blog post. Just a great tool.
That's fun. It's actually fun. I've played with it on the Mac.
Yeah. Anybody else using Sketch? Let's see. Oh yeah. See, Dave says love Sketch. Didn't know it was also available for the phone. Now that's interesting. I'm assuming it's on the iPhone because it's on the iPad.
I think it is, but I'm not sure.
Well, I guess it is because of the picture. The picture, the video you just showed.
Oh,
it did
he was doing a phone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's a great tool when you're trying to share information and being specific, again, adding little arrows and text to help people understand what you're talking about. And it's great if you're trying to communicate technical information with somebody who's non-technical, you're showing and not just trying to write it all out. So I think it's a great tool.
Now,
what is your fun?
Now, I've got one called Snapseed. Now, this actually is sort of interesting. I was talking to Leva, who is in the chat room right now.
Yes,
and she was telling me about Adobe Photoshop Touch, which is on Android, but not yet on the iOS platform. And it's kind of a version of Photoshop that is very touch-oriented. Well, that got me looking on iOS for photo tools, things that you can make your photos look a little bit better, add filters. And there are some really good ones, like 100 cameras.
I love 100
which I have.
cameras.
It's a great one.
Yeah.
But in this case, I got Snapseed. I did some research, and it was I think it's $4.95.
It was $5. I downloaded it last week and have played with it.
Yeah, but it is a great tool. It works really well. And here's a little video on Snapseed. You'll see. Take a look at the touch interface as you see what they're doing. It's pretty amazing.
Snapseed for iPad takes advantage of the power of the iPad along with Nik Software's award-winning technologies to turn your images into memorable, shareable moments. Let's get familiar with Snapseed's interface. First, we'll need to open an image. Snapseed has 11 built-in filters, accessible from the filter deck, navigated with a swipe. Tapping a filter lets you start enhancing your photo. At the bottom of the interface is the toolbar for the filter. Back lets you back out of the filter. Tapping and holding down the Compare button shows the unedited image. Styles enables you to select from different variations of the filter. Texture randomizes the texture applied. Undo undoes what you just did if you need it, and if you don't, then apply the filter. Tapping Styles will open a menu with a variety of different options for the filter. Each is unique, and it's up to you to select one. For this photo, let's try style number 5. Swiping left or right adjusts the current enhancement. Swiping your finger up or down lets you select from the enhancements available. Most enhancements work with a swipe. Some, like center size, use the pinch and zoom gesture to choose the area of effect. Suppose that we aren't sure about that edit. Let's tap and hold down Undo to reveal the Undo Redo menu. We can also compare all the work we've done with the original photo by tapping on the Compare button. If you're happy with the edit, tap Apply. In the main view, pressing and holding the Compare button shows the image before any enhancement has been applied. We can also revert the image, which undoes all Snapseed enhancements and restores your image. You can also save the photo into your library. Finally, you can share your photo with one of several social networks. Tap the Share button and select how you want to share. The Help button reveals a variety of helpful information about Snapseed.
Yeah, it is a great tool.
Yeah.
Very, very easy to work with.
And it's interesting. I didn't know that. Dave was saying that Snapseed won Apple's App of the Year.
Yeah, I think they did.
That's cool.
It's actually really good programming. I love the fact that you only have really two gestures you have to worry about. One is vertical, the up and down. The other one is horizontal. And then you can do your finger gesture. For example, one thing you can do with it, let's say you take a picture and you want to highlight somebody's face. Well, what you can do is you drag the center spot right to the middle of their face, and then you just open it up a little bit so the whole face is covered, and you can add a filter to that and then blur the whole background and just leave their it's just really a nice programming.
It just makes you feel like a real professional when you're doing it.
And it takes minutes. We had gone to Hawaii in October, and I used that the other day just to retouch some pictures up. It took minutes. And they came out really well. I mean, they were fairly good pictures to begin with. They came out way better.
That's what I like. Again, if our goal is using more photos and videos in our business, especially, but anywhere, taking pictures sometimes at a conference, or taking pictures on the go, or taking pictures of something your team is doing. A lot of times I use my iPad, because then I can use tools like Snapseed and 100 cameras and any of those, and make an average picture look really cool.
Right.
And add a filter to it that all of a sudden makes it look artsy and worthy of then displaying. Because so many times you see pictures and you're saying, I wonder why they posted that, or it's just not a great picture. Well, with these type of apps and Snapseed, again, well worth the $5, which I think 100 cameras may have also been about $5.
I don't remember, but it's a really good one too.
That's another cool one. What I like about Snapseed is you can change specific things about the picture.
Right.
100 cameras is you're just going through 100 different filters.
But boy, they look good.
Yeah, and it applies the whole thing to the whole picture. You can't, tweak different things on it. So, yeah, Snapseed is really cool. And ironically, Rick, you picked that one. And a week ago, when I was talking about photos, someone sent me a message on Facebook saying, check out Snapseed. For some reason, Dave, was it you? Now I'm thinking maybe it was Dave that actually sent a message saying, check out Snapseed. But it was, I've had a lot of fun with that. So I think that's a great tool for us to be more photogenic this year, because it can take, it can make one of those pictures where you might not look your best.
Right.
And suddenly you put an
you can blur your face and everything else. It's really good. It's perfect.
Yeah, make everything behind you clear. No, it wasn't you, Dave. Okay. Dave, I'll give you credit anyway. I think it's a fun tool to, here's another tip in photos. Put a sepia or black and white filter on any picture where you don't look so flattering, and suddenly you look, it's a glamorous look.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's a good one. So I think, there's some good homework for us. Is we're going to back up our systems, we're going to check and change our passwords where necessary, and get that camera out and start snapping more
pictures. Take pictures.
Yeah.
Have fun with pictures.
Have fun.
Get rid of that. Get that creative side going.
Yeah, I think that's a good goal for us this year. One of our social goals has got to be more visual.
Well, Gina, our new outro music, kind of catchy. Well, everyone in the chat room, thanks for being there. And for all of you watching the recording, please subscribe. And we will see you next week for episode number 42. This is 41, Gina.
41.
41.
40's best years yet.
Yep. Anyway, everyone, have a great day, and we will see you next week on
Happy New Year. Next year won't be new. Next week.
Next year will be just another year, right?
Next week, it'll just be another year.
Just another year.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Look, that was great music. Great outro music.
It's fun.
And we kept it to 35 minutes.